And we are live. Welcome everyone. A very warm evening to every one of you who have tuned to our page Wings, Durgapur Wildlife Information and Nature Guide Society for today's session on tackling ritualistic hunting in South Bengal by Miss Meghna Banerjee and her team. Welcome Miss Meghna Banerjee.
Thank you.
Okay, so first I will introduce Meghna Banerjee. With her, we also have Subrajyoti Chatterjee da and Orko Sarkar da. So Meghna Banerjee is the CEO and Executive Director of HEAL. She is also a lawyer and an environmental activist who has been instrumental in initiating public interest litigation before the Calcutta High Court and the National Green Tribunal for protection of wetland or forest habitats and prevention of wildlife crimes. She liaisons with enforcement agencies to address issues of poaching and wildlife trafficking. Meghna is a wildlife enthusiast and a nature photographer who believes that photography can be used as an excellent tool for conservation. Now, moving on to the next introduction, we will go to Subrajyoti. Subrajyoti is a wildlife activist with special expertise in rescue and rehabilitation of distressed wildlife, particularly reptiles. He has more than a decade of experience in snakebite mitigation and management. He is a resource person for West Bengal Forest Department and has conducted multiple reptile management workshops for forest officials. Subrajyoti is an avid naturalist with a wide range of interests, including graphic designing and wildlife photography. Next, Orkoda is a software programmer and an avid bird watcher with special expertise in respect of birds of Northeast India. He has been part of bird surveys and various avian conservation initiatives in the last 15 years. Orko is a state level reviewer for eBird from West Bengal and a wildlife campaigner who engages with indigenous communities to create awareness about wildlife. His passion for birds has taken him for places far and wide, including Papuan rainforests of Indonesia, home to the birds of paradise. So, Subrajyoti Chatterjee is the secretary of HEAL and Orkoda is the president of HEAL. Before we start, I would request Ms. Meghna to tell us a bit about HEAL because many people might not know what HEAL is.
So HEAL is an organization which works for biodiversity protection. Our work is primarily focused around South Bengal, and we have been dealing with cases like hunting and habitat protection. We have filed cases in the Calcutta High Court for protection of wetlands. Along with that, we also do a lot of rescue and rehabilitation work with pertaining to wildlife. And it has people from different walks of life. We are about 60 member strong organization. We have quite a big army of volunteers, and our aim is essentially to protect the biodiversity of Bengal.
Okay, great. So, without further delay, ma'am, you can proceed.
Okay. So today's topic, which we are going to discuss, is ritualistic hunting in South Bengal, and how we are tackling the problem, which has acquired very grave proportions, particularly in the last few years. Now, before I start on as to get into the details of what exactly we understand by ritual hunting, I just want to give a broad overview of what are the types of activities which are considered as wildlife crime. So, under the Wildlife Protection Act, which is the governing law in India, any kind of any kind of activity which pertains to killing or capturing or trapping of wildlife for any purpose, including for food or trade in body parts, and whether found inside or outside protected areas, are equally serious criminal offenses. There are no exceptions provided under the Wildlife Protection Act for hunting. The only two limited situations where hunting is permitted, it needs to have the sanction from the chief wildlife warden, and for certain specific purposes, like when an animal is posing a threat to human life, that is a Schedule 1 animal, or you can only hunt with the permission of the chief wildlife warden for Schedule 1 animals where there is a definite threat to human life. And if for other animals, in certain cases, we have seen like there are restrictive orders given for killing nilgai, etc., in different parts of India, and these orders are issued under the Wildlife Protection Act wherever the animal becomes a threat to the property or crops. Apart from this, two limited situations where killing is permitted, and only with the permission of the chief wildlife warden, who has to give the reasons in writing. There are no instances where any kind of hunting is exempted from the Wildlife Protection Act. Particularly, any kind of ritualistic or traditional, any hunting which has a traditional connotation is prohibited under the Indian law. Now, there are certain kinds of crimes, certain wildlife crimes, which we all see around us, and probably this also finds their way into news headlines, and no one really challenges the fact that these are crimes. So here I'm showing you pictures of seizures of Royal Bengal tiger, the cheetah, and the rhino horns. Sorry, leopard. I had cheetah in my mind, so it's leopard skin. Now, in despite this, when it comes to certain smaller animals, and when the hunting is taking place under a different garb, that of rituals and traditions, very same killing are no longer regarded as an offense by the common people. They do not stop. They do not stop. I repeat, from being criminal offenses. But if we this kind of scene used to be very, very common some years back across different railway stations in South Bengal. Now, I will take you through a series of pictures before I get on to the legal provisions and what are the steps we have taken to tackle the problem. I will first take you through what ritual hunting actually means, and I will do that through a series of pictures which will help you understand the problem. So this is a photo which we have taken 4 years back in a place called Pashkura in East Mednipur, and ironically, it was taken on the World Environment Day. So, what is this hunting festival? This hunting festival, which apparently is celebrated on the occasion of worship of goddess Kali, used to be one of the most destructive festivals in Bengal. We hardly had any inkling the day we went. This was our first tryst with ritual hunting of South Bengal. Three of us, Shubro, myself, and another colleague of mine, we went we heard about this hunting from one of our sources on Facebook. He said that there are several hundred people traveling in a railway, in a train, and they are going towards East Mednipur. So we thought that let us see if what is this kind of hunting. What we had in our mind when we heard the word traditional hunting was that there will be a group of some people who are out to hunt for their subsistence. When we reached the spot, however, it was a completely different picture. There were thousands of animals, all protected under the Wildlife Protection Act. Some of them, like the ones which you see here, these are all Schedule 1 animals, monitor lizards, which has the same protection as a tiger under the Wildlife Protection Act. They were lying slaughtered across the railway platforms. And there were thousands of hunters, each one carrying a bag, which contained some sort of kill or the other. Little that we realized that this was not the only platform. Then we started moving across the entire stretch of Southeastern Railway from Howrah to East Mednipur. And the more stations we went to, the more dead bodies we found. And even on the roads, we came across large groups of hunters who were either moving around with hunted wildlife or were in the process of going to the hunt destinations with their weapons. We were lucky enough to intercept some of them. But how many can we do it? In the railway platforms, there's nothing else to do apart from just document. So these are pictures from, the primary documentation happened between 2016. This is in 17. Our team on the same, this festival basically happens either in the month of May and June. And in 2016, it happened in June. This year, in 2017, it happened in May. So as you can see, young hunters, they are carrying this live animals. Some of them boarded the trains also with the monitor lizards. And on asking some of the hunters, they said that we are taking these animals alive because the skins are quite lucrative. The sale of skins is quite lucrative, and we get a good price in the market. These are again pictures taken on the railway platforms. And as you can see, at that time it was happening in open view of the authorities. The again schedule 2. So I have actually provided all the schedules of the animals also in case someone has any doubt. This is a, soft shell turtle. The earlier one was a rat snake. And all these are documentation which was done by our team over the last few years. Shubhru, you have anything to add on this?
Meghna di, I'm gonna ask a question. Are they
You,
cooking the mongoose in that pot?
Yeah. In fact, there was an interview which we had taken of this particular person. So, I mean, I think the video would not, maybe it won't come properly here because it's a very high resolution video. This was this was again in Pashkura railway station. So while we were documenting, we came across this person who was cooking bushmeat in the pot. When we asked him what animal is it, he said this is basically mongoose, neol. They call it Neul in Bengali.
Okay, so the people who think that Chinese only eat wild animals are
Yeah,
completely wrong.
that's
Like,
actually a very wrong.
like
That's
we
wrong.
Indians are not far behind the Chinese
No.
in eating live meat.
Yeah, yeah,
in fact, Shankho, they also wanted us to test how good was the meal
yeah.
was prepared. So uh, we
And they particularly enjoy the meat of turtle. So when
Hmm.
we were in fact
Turtle,
taking
turtle
this
meat
interview,
has become some a big menace today.
yeah. So
In
this
fact,
is the golden jackal.
sorry to interrupt here. Now that
Ah, no, no,
you
yeah. Go
mentioned
ahead,
that,
go ahead. Sorry.
now that Shanko mentions that trading turtle has become a bit of a menace, I just have a quick hilarious anecdote to add.
Hmm.
We were doing surveys about ritual hunting in West Midnapur, and we asked one of the people who go on hunting and also consumes bushmeat that have you seen? We showed up a photo of a soft-shelled turtle and asked, "Have you seen this? Can you tell us where it is found? In what kind of habitat?" And he said, "Why, Bajare, in the market?" So that was that's the situation where people commonly find or more often see that kind of a turtle in a weekly market than in their original habitat.
Okay,
Yeah,
Sorry
so
about
the
that.
wildlife is being now found in the market rather than in the
yeah.
wild.
Yes.
In fact, Shanko, if you had gone to this railway station 2 years or 3 years back, it is a very good place to study the it used to be a very good place to study the biodiversity of that particular region. You would find every sort of animal scattered across the railway platform, starting from monitor
Exactly.
lizards, jackals. Some of the pictures we could not take because we were actually surrounded and we were harassed, and it was we were threatened also. And in fact, in one occasion when we had come across a bag of monitor lizards, primarily
Montalism.
golden monitor lizard. So there was a huge crowd of people, and Shubro, in fact, went in trying to intervene, saying, and he was trying to reason with some of the tribals who had formed a mob. I mean, it was actually not tribals; it had hunters from across all communities. Because right now, if you when you mention traditional hunting, it is no longer limited to tribal communities. Even people from other communities join them, and they become opportunistic participants. So these hunter groups were were creating huge mobs on the railway platforms. And when we tried to reason with them, and Shubro went and tried to take the bag away, saying that at least the ones which are alive, please don't kill all of them. You have got as many as you want. Why do you need to kill? So it actually created a commotion. Uh, uh, two of the railway officials, they came and they said that, you are creating a law and order situation here by trying to have a dialogue with the hunters. Why don't you just leave the premises of the railway station? So we tried to, in fact, reason with him that we are, in fact, trying to stop a law and order situation. And instead of telling us to leave, you can maybe sort of tell them that they cannot be hunting animals which are protected, Schedule 1 animals protected under the Wildlife Protection Act.
Exactly.
However, no one really listened to us, and when they saw that situation, that the authorities themselves are showing so much disinterest, the mobs became even more hostile,
Hostile.
and they tried to and they just took the bag away from Shubro, and they said that nothing doing, you just leave, we will not do anything. And in fact, one person actually put a blunt axe on his hand. So thankfully the axe was blunt, so no serious injuries were sustained, but it was quite scary. He was surrounded on all sides by these people who were just shoving him. They were making all kinds of threats, and that day it was really scary for all of us.
That's a really scary situation, because from the pictures
So
I
we
could
are.
see at least
Hmm,
the
hmm.
Bengal monitor and the water monitor. The images were clear that both
Yeah.
of the monitors are found there and they have hunted a lot.
Mm-hmm. And in fact,
Mm.
there was one instance where I was, walking the platform, trying to document as many wildlife as possible. I came across a bag containing parts of a jungle cat. Unfortunately, by that time, they had realized that something was up. And the moment I tried to take pictures, they just snatched my phone away. So
Okay.
obviously, finally, they gave me the phone back only on the condition that I won't take pictures.
Pictures.
And there was a baby jacana. I think we have put a picture later on.
Mm, mm.
So I sort of got it from the hunters. In the process of taking it, there was a lot of harassment and threats. They say that you have to give the leave the bird here. You can't take it away. So when I try to reason with them that this is a baby, anyway, for hunting, if you're anyway hunting, you should target the adult animals. At least leave the cheeks aside. No one was listening. They were just howling all around. Finally, when they realized that I have called the police, then they allowed me to leave the place with the baby jacana. So this was in 2016. The condition was like this. The authorities were okay when they realized that there is a team of people, and especially a woman who is in trouble. And I spoke to the DM ma'am. She agreed to send someone to help us, but only to ensure that we don't get harmed. But no one was really bothered about the animals. The first reaction was, it is, अरे इन लोगों का तो exemption है, तो ये तो ट्राइबल हंटिंग उन लोगों का कल्चर है, तो वो कैसे नहीं होगा, वो तो करेंगे ही, वो हम लोग कैसे बंद करेंगे वो.
Okay.
So these are certain. So this is some pictures from Howrah. You can see in one frame you have jungle cat and fishing cat here. This was also taken, a baby so fishing cat cub taken from a different place in 2017. And these are freshly killed animals. And this is a typical method by which they carry. They just tie everything to that to a stick, and they hold it over their shoulders. And in many places, especially in Jhargram and West Mandipur, they also put leaves. Shuru, you
Okay.
remember the custom which they mentioned, no? That there's a kind of a custom which they have to put leaves on top of the kill.
They have narrated some of the customs and rituals, which is essential to cover the face of the animals. So I didn't remember everything, but yes, there is a custom. And so you cover the face of your kill, and then you carry that away. So this is like a ritual thing to them. So when you move to other parts of the West Bengal, where there are often reports of hunting, they do not usually sort of this kind of a practice of covering the mouth with the sal leaves. But when
Yeah.
you go to Mendipur side, Purulia side, Jhargram side, so they often resorted to this kind of a thing. Okay, carry on.
Okay.
This is the
This
thing.
is, yeah. See, so this is a jungle cat, and they have just wrapped it in leaves, and they are carrying it over their shoulder. So this was in a different place. This was in one hunt called. So this hunt basically happens on the occasion of Choitra Shankantri, that is 13th April of every year. and this is where the Lalgarh tiger was in fact killed in April 2018. In
And
fact,
this is the very day when the Lalgarh tiger got killed. So this is
yeah.
that uh, ill-fated.
In
Yeah.
fact, this is the kill. Yeah. And in fact, at that point of time, we were on the field and we were documenting the hunt when we got to know from the hunters themselves that they have managed to spot and kill the tiger. So these are some pictures from Purulia. So, one of the main reasons to put this photo is to show that, it's not actually done for subsistence. Like a lot of us have a conception in our minds that this kind of hunting, which is done by the tribal communities or non-tribal communities of these areas, are done for subsistence, for livelihood purposes. But that is not the case. For them, it's more of a recreation. Because, for us, we go out for photography or picnics. For them, it's hunting has become a sort of an addiction. And initially, when they see that they're not getting any kind of a resistance from the authorities, then everybody thinks that it's an open ground to hunt. And that is the mentality which we came across again and again. In fact, many of the ritualistic traditions, they were unable to even they were unable to state the roots of this particular traditions as to during which they're hunting.
Okay.
So this is one instance where it shows that hunting is not really being done by people of the really poor sections of the local communities. So this gentleman, he had actually brought a bike, spent a substantial amount of fuel. He had come from quite some distance. I think he had gone from Bishnupur in Bakura, and he was going back with the bow tied behind his bike. So he has spent a substantial amount of money in coming to the hunt location, and he is hunting basically for the thrill of it. And that is something which we have many live interviews which I'll be showing later in one of our videos. So one of the short films which we have made on this. So we clearly the interviews have revealed each and every time that it is primarily a lust for hunting, addiction towards hunting. They just feel it as a recreation, it's a good cultural event for them. So these are again some pictures from this is from last year. Pakibad, the same place where the tiger was hunted in 2018. So these are some throwbacks from 2016 in Pashkura. So Pashkura is basically it's a location in East Medipur district, and one of the railway stations which had the largest number of hunters. In fact, if you see this picture, if you see what are under the feet of these people, it's I think feathers of
Wonderful.
like hundreds of birds, and they've killed all of these birds, and they're now skinning more birds, and these are all hunted during the festival. So traditionally there were some customs which earlier communities used to follow, that you don't hunt pregnant female, you don't hunt babies or calves or chicks, but we did not see any kind of observance of these customs during these festivals. So as you see, nothing is really spared. Now these are all skinned night herons. Imagine, think we all of us are really keen to get photos of night herons, and we would do anything to go to a spot with such large numbers. And here at least there would be 40 to 50 of them hunted and skinned. And the worst part was that it was happening openly in full view of the authorities. And this is one of the instances where we rescued monitor lizard, and this was taken in this was in Howrah. And the forest department was also present, but sometimes given the large number of sheer number of hunters, it becomes a difficult situation to manage even for the authorities. Okay. So now, getting to a bit of the theory part of it, basically. Before I move on to the legal sections and the court cases which we filed. So all these pictures which I showed you are from from 16 and 17, and some of it is from 18 as well. But since then, there have been some changes because we have moved to the court. So I'll come to that later. But first, to give you a background. So the areas which are really affected by this ritualistic hunting, the districts are West Medipur, East Medipur, Jhargram, Howrah, Purulia, Bakura, and Murshidabad. Apart from that, also hunting happens across in places like Noida and Birbhum as well. But for our work, mostly we are covering these districts. Now, initially, when we think about this any kind of ritual hunting, the first thought and most people are aware of something called the Bodha Purnima, which is one of the most common rituals where hunting is practiced by tribal communities. Now, during our investigations on the field, we came across not one or two or three. We came across more than 50 days in a year where people are going out for hunting. Some of these days are major hunt festivals, like the one which I spoke about initially, the Pholharani Kali Puja Hunt Festival, or the one happening on Chaitra Shankranti on 13th April, or the Bodha Purnima. But there are also innumerable smaller occasions where hunters gather. Now, when I say the smaller occasions, what I mean is the number of people who gather could range anywhere between 1,000 to 2,000, or even 3,000 for that matter. For the bigger festivals like Pholharani Kali Puja or the one which is happening in Pakiba, there would be 15 to 20,000 people. And these estimates are not what we have come out with. Even the forest department had estimates of number of hunters who gather together in one place during the Pholharani Kali Puja festival in Howrah and in East Medipur. So some of these festivals are dependent on railways, which are the ones primarily the Bodho Purnima and the Pholharani one, because they are further away from the traditional from the area which we know traditionally as Jongal Mahal, like Jhargram, West Medipur. So the people from these areas, they take a train and travel to the other districts, which are quite far away and not possible to reach by using vehicles, or it is very costly for them. So they mainly avail of the trains. And unsurprisingly, the railways did not really used to stop them. They would travel in the trains without even buying tickets, and they'd be traveling in large numbers with as many weapons as they want. So it was cheap, free, and not only that, they got to pitch camp in the railway stations. So the two hunting festivals which are primarily dependent on railways were Pholharani Kali Pujo Hunt and Bodha Purnima. So after they accumulate at the stations, then they say pitch camp, and they slowly start going out. They make haria or the local brew, and they may be cooking something which they are carrying, and then they spread out to hunt. Now, in areas like in East Medipur and Howrah, because the biodiversity is very high, there's a lot of water bodies, and you get animals starting right from fishing cat to monitor lizards. So for them it becomes really a field day. The number of animals killed during this festival is extremely high. Whereas when the hunt happens in places in Jongal Mahal like West Medipur and Jhargram, it is comparatively less. The reason being that they've already hunted out a large part of the biodiversity. And secondly, they may have less number of water dependent species like monitor lizards. And also that area doesn't have so many fishing cats. And Howrah, large number of fishing cats are also hunted during this festival. Now, after they go out to hunt, maybe they start off by about 9 o'clock in the morning at the latest. Generally they go out earlier, but by 9 most of the hunters are out, and then they hunt and they return to the platforms by about 4:30 in the evening. And after they used to reach the platforms, they would sit there and in open view of the authorities, they would cook, they would first skin, or in some cases, when the animal was not killed, they would kill it, then skin it, and then cook it openly on the platforms. So there are some festivals which I have like loosely mentioned here, like this is Bodha Purnima, and some of the worst affected spaces. So this year it's Bodha Purnima just happened. I'm given to understand that because of the lockdown and because of the court orders which came in last year, movement has been quite low. Also, because another reason that it has the why I'm mentioning the lockdown is because the trains were not plying at all. So no one from Jharkhand or West Bengal could travel to these areas because they generally embark at the Barabhum railway station or the Adra station, and from there they start going to the Ayodhya Hills. Now, this is a festival which is coming up, so we will see what happens, how, and hopefully the train service won't be resumed completely by that time. This is another one, which the Chaitra Sankranti one, which I mentioned, where where the tiger was killed. This year, I'm again given to understand because of the various lockdown-related restrictions. This place was actually empty. We have our local people there, and they sent us photos. Then 18th April, there were some parts where there were gatherings, but again, we were able to talk to the forest department and sort of disperse the crowds. Now, these are some of the railway stations which are worst affected. You will see one thing: we have put a lot of focus on this particular festival because it actually was one of the most disastrous ones in terms of the number of animals killed. So we have and initially when the presentation was made, actually it was made for the railways. So we have, if you see, we have actually listed out the platforms and the locations where hunters board the stations and the final hunting destinations. So this is a map showing the entire location. So, why I have kept it separately? Because one is falling under the Southeastern Railway, the other is falling under the one is a Kharagpur junction, one is the, I think, Adra junction. So, Adra junction has a separate set of stations and it's on a different line. Correct me if I'm wrong, Shubhro?
Yeah, you're right. Correct.
The Adra has a different DRM office, most probably.
Correct. In fact, Orkoda, you can speak about the incident which we faced in last year.
We faced a number of incidents. Which one are you referring to?
The one where
They are actually welcoming the tribals instead of putting up any kind of resistance.
We can actually take it up once I speak about the court orders. I think then that will become more relevant.
Yeah.
I think before you present with the court order and with all the legalities, we can show them the scale and the magnitude of the hunting which is going on.
Right. We'll do that. So okay. So I am now showing video. So before we move on to the legal part of it and what we have done to tackle the problem, just to give you a more vivid display of what exactly happens in the name of this ritualistic hunting. Our member Ashwika Kapoor, she's a wildlife filmmaker. So she had made a short film for us with footage which were collected by our on-field teams from 2016 to 2019. This was made last year. Just let me know if it's visible.
The first time I saw them, I was shocked.
চোখে না দেখলে বিশ্বাসই করা যাবে না। ওরা প্রচুর অস্ত্র নিয়ে যাচ্ছিল দিনের বেলায়।
It was a massacre.
India has strict laws against hunting. Bengal's hunting festival is completely illegal.
আমার বাড়ির সামনে প্রতি বছরে হয়।
Imagine a festival just to kill wild animals.
You may think that this hunt is driven by need, but that's not true.
এই শিকার উৎসব হয় শুধুই আনন্দ করার জন্য।
মাহাতো, তোমার তো আদিবাসী না তুমি?
আদিবাসী নয়,
তবু এসছো?
ফুর্তি চলে এসছি,
ঘুরতে চলে এসছো?
ফুর্তি করতে এসছি।
আচ্ছা, আর মাহাতো কেউ আসছে?
হ্যাঁ অনেক,
এসছে?
হ্যাঁ অনেক এসছি।
কি হইলো?
মানে একটাও বড়া পাইলাম কেন? তুমি যে সাংবাদিক কি করছেন আপনি বলেন।
এটা ফুর্তি, ম্যাডাম, একটা ফুর্তি আছে। যেমন এই যে মুরগি লড়া যায়, মুরগি লাগা, ওরকম আর কি একটা ফুর্তি।
Bengal, this is not who we are.
Join us to educate
and sensitize. Help us to ensure that the law is implemented.
এই শিকার উৎসব বন্ধ করতে আমাদের একটু সাহায্য করুন।
Speak up, share this, help stop the killing.
That was a really devastating video.
Imagine witnessing all of that.
I'm literally, I have goosebumps on my skin because I don't think I have seen so many wild animals at a time, at a single day of my wildlife endeavors, and they are killing that. And they have a huge man force. Like if they just stop hunting and they join the forest department in documenting the wildlife, we can get a millions of species from an area.
Yeah.
Subrata, your mic is mute. Hold on.
Okay, Meghna, back to your presentation.
Okay. You have any comments, Akoda Shubro, on the video? Okay. So now coming to the laws, Wildlife Protection Act specifically says that hunting is prohibited. So this clearly from the videos and from the pictures now, it's very obvious that what they are doing is nothing but hunting. Hunting is a cognizable offense, which is punishable with imprisonment from 3 to 7 years and fine, which makes it up to 25,000. Two terms which we have been used here is one is a cognizable offense and one is a non-bailable. Just to explain it for people who may not be so conversant with this terminologies, cognizable offense by its nature means there are serious offenses where the police on their own can arrest without waiting for a warrant from the judicial magistrate. For minor offenses, arrest cannot happen without first getting a warrant from the magistrate. So only serious offenses are cognizable, which essentially means that all wildlife crimes which are committed under the Wildlife Protection Act are serious offenses. They are also non-bailable. Now, when we say non-bailable, it means that the person who has the accused does not automatically have the right to ask for bail. The bail, if he has to make an application again before the judicial magistrate, and only if the magistrate is convinced will he get the bail. So he has to establish his bona fide in order to get bail. So again, this indicates that the offense which it relates to is a serious offense. So no one, so the practical implication of this is that, many times when we try to complain to the police or even to the forest department, okay, if it's a bird or if something which is not maybe covered under Schedule 1, may not be such a serious offense. It is a completely incorrect understanding. Offenses under the Wildlife Protection Act are all very serious offenses, even if it means that you have killed a bird or a Royal Bengal tiger. Evidently, species which are at a higher level of endangerment, they are put under Schedule 1 and 2 and attract a higher quantum of punishment. There is, under the Wildlife Protection Act, there is no exemption for any kind of traditional hunting or shikar. There's only one exemption which is provided for certain tribals in the Andaman Nicobar Islands, and that is it. The EWPA is very clear. No other tribals or in local communities have this exemption. Now, this is just a little more technical. Basically, under the Wildlife Protection Act, if you see hunting happening, and for whatever reason the department is or the police is not taking action, then you as a citizen can actually write a letter to the chief wildlife warden saying that please take action in this matter. If you do not take action, then I'm going to approach the court directly. Wait for 60 days and actually approach the court of judicial magistrate. So that is a leeway which is given to the common citizens. Otherwise, the FIR, the complaints are lodged only on the complaints made by the forest department. Now, the first important law governing traditional hunting, as I said, was WPA. The second one is the Forest Rights Act. What we know is basically the Bible for the rights of the tribal communities in India. Now, okay, so now the first thing which I want to say is, even with respect to the rights on the forest, these rights are only available for people who are dependent on the land for their bona fide livelihoods. In many cases, when we have, and in most cases actually, when we came across the hunters, they might be from a certain community, but by no means are they dependent on the land. They have other occupations. Some of them are school teachers, shopkeepers, even butchers, and government employees. So they would not even fall within the scope of this act. Secondly, this act specifically excludes trapping or extracting any part of a wild animal. So whatever rights they have of collecting forest produce, of moving about the collecting forest produce, that pertains only to the non-wildlife products like leaves, fruits, etc. And they have the right to movement, right of passage to the forests. In fact, even for the communities which are dependent on the land, there are various the act actually provides that they have to take steps to protect biodiversity and wildlife. And what we see here happening is the complete opposite to that. Now, apart from this too, for the ones where railways are being used, even various provisions of the Railways Act are attracted. So any kind of all these activities which were shown during this presentation, like cooking openly in the platform, storing wild animals, transporting wild animals, carrying dangerous weapons, traveling without tickets, traveling on the trains in an intoxicated condition, all of it are completely impermissible under the Railways Act. So these are certain provisions or the instances where the violations are taking place. Now, to come to the court cases or the public interest litigation, which we filed in this matter. So we realize that this problem is a really big one, and maybe the solution does not only lie in awareness or even in dialogue or trying to generate dialogue with the local communities. There has to be certain enforcement actions along with which the awareness programs will work. So we initiated the first public interest litigation in 2018. This was again with respect to the Falharni Kali Pujo, which I just mentioned, is the most destructive festival. We in fact got this order right on the day one, where the Chief Justice and his companion judge specifically directed the Forest Department as well as the district administration, the DM and the SP, to make sure that no hunting activities take place on the occasion of Falharni Kali Pujo. So this was the starting point. Now, following on from that, following on from this, we started seeing a fall in the number of kills during this festival. So in 2019 itself, there was a drastic reduction. Essentially, and we did not just leave it at the court getting a court order. The court order had come in about 3 days before the hunting date. So we made sure that the court order actually reached the authorities on time. So they cannot say that we didn't have the order, so we are not implementing it. Secondly, there had to be a huge coordination amongst all the authorities. So we were talking to the railways. Primarily, we are speaking to the Railway Protection Force because they are a central body and are easier to deal with. We had already started conducting sensitization programs with them to tell them that railway platforms should not be used for these activities. So that is, they were one link in the chain. Then the forest department was there, and we also spoke to the DM, who gave police support. So, and in fact, in one of the first instances, railways played announcements saying that hunting is illegal across the public the public announcement system, where they give announcements of the coming and going of trains and the various train timings. They actually, at an interval of 10-15 minutes, they were playing that short clip, audio clip, which we had given them, recorded message saying that hunting is illegal and carrying any kind of wild animals and weapons on the platforms is an illegal activity and can lead to arrest. So we saw a major drop, and some people were also arrested from Howrah. Again, that video, I don't have it with me right now. So arrests were conducted, and the forest department, after conducting the arrest, they produced before the judicial magistrate, and they were also put to judicial custody, and they were convicted after that. So this trend continued on to last year as well. In the meantime, we had also taken help of a large number of volunteers who would be reporting from different platforms in these two districts and reporting to us and coordinating with authorities. So whenever any hunter would step down into a railway platform, they would be immediately spotted. Their weapons would be seized with the help of the authorities. And if any hunted animal were found, then they would be arrested. So there have been instances last year as well where hunters were actually arrested. Now, this was the first PIL. The second one was with respect to the remaining districts. Earlier, I had said about the Jungle Mahal part. So there also we got similar kind of response. And the court also directed the chief wildlife warden and along with the DM and the railways to take all possible measures to stop ritual hunting. Okay, so now basically just like I think we already know this, what is the adverse effect of hunting, because the sheer scale in which it is happening, it actually decimates the biodiversity of a particular region. Many species can face local extinction. For instance, the fishing cats, which are present in Howrah, locally they have a certain good population, but if you keep on hunting them, they are just going to disappear from that place. And this problem, as I told earlier, also leads to illegal wildlife trade. So these animals have various needs for us from a human perspective, and these are some of the points which we communicate to the authorities while we are conducting awareness programs and sensitization programs around this. So some of the measures or the way forward is obviously the implementation of the High Court's orders. Then the use of the railway announcement, like I indicated, the railway announcement system to be used in order to dissuade hunters from boarding the trains in the first place. This was used as a very effective weapon in the last 2 years in our fight against the Polharni Kalipujo Hunt Fest. Calendars and dates have been shared with all the authorities. Then the railways have also used provisions of the Railways Act in order to prevent hunters and to seize their weapons. So, and also the district magistrate and the railways, they have been working with the forest department to prevent hunting. Now, there are certain parts, I'm not getting into too much details, it might become very technical. There are certain provisions in our Indian Penal Code and the Criminal Procedure Code by which you can even stop the hunter. So you were seeing the large number of people who had gathered. So that hunting, that gathering can be stopped right at the inception by invoking these provisions of the Indian Penal Code and Criminal Procedure Code. The DM and the SP of the districts have the full power to impose a curfew and to prevent gatherings from happening. And that is what we have been communicating with them for. And it becomes particularly relevant for the hunting festivals of Jongul Mohon. where there is no railways to really pick us. Like in Falharani, Kali Puja, Hunt Fest, if the railways don't allow, they can't get down. But in case in this district, unless there is a curfew imposed, people will continue gathering in one place. Now there are certain. So the other thing is that we have been conducting awareness apart from the enforcement part of it. We have also been conducting awareness programs, training programs for the railway officials, because ultimately it's the people on the ground who have to sort of identify and stop the hunters from boarding. Although they are helped by our volunteers, but even then they need to have some knowledge of what is the problem. Then other things, during the past 1 year, we have been working with organizations like WTI and WCT, where we have tried to set up dialogue with the villages, conduct school programs, medical camps as a trust building exercise. And so these are some of the pictures from there. And as citizens, all of us should use the social media platforms the print and television as modes to communicate our position against ritual hunting. And we can have resistance units like the ones we have volunteer groups who help us in tracking and monitoring hunters during some of the hunt fests, and sensitization programs at the district level.
In fact, Shanko, I would like to weigh in and speak a few things. During the time of our this ritualistic hunting across the southern Bengal, we usually invite all the NGOs like Nature Mates, and there are certain other NGOs also. So you can also be a part, so that we can also garner a common force, and we can give all kind of support to the forest department along with the police department. So you are most welcome along with all the other NGOs,
Surely.
NGIs, individual. So this is up to you whether you would like to make a difference in the ground level and in
We
the.
would be more than glad to join for this cause, because
Okay.
we as an NGO have been always working to educate people how to save wildlife and how to conserve, and to make people understand about the wildlife. So this hunting is a big menace, and it has been that thanks to your organization that these laws were again brought to the notice of the authorities.
So
Uh,
this is the end of our presentation. So if you have any questions,
okay,
because I don't see any. So if you can.
I think
surely, surely, surely.
we have given a wonderful presentation. Everyone has understood. There are no
Yeah,
questions.
it has been a wonderful presentation. We do have a few questions. Okay, hold on. Okay, the first question is there any incident of elephant hunting as a part of this ritualistic killing?
I think Orko Prabhu Ghosh, who is also a member, has already provided the answer, which is no. No, elephant is not a part of
Okay.
this
Ah,
hunting. And there is one more thing. So we are discussing about covering the head with the sal leaves. So our member just pinged me, and Rakesh Shingodev. So he told us that to protect the eyes. I don't know, after it is a dead thing, so how can you protect the eyes? To protect the eyes, it's the ritual, so they cover the eye with the sal leaf.
okay.
Okay.
I was saying it's transformed. Okay, we have a big incident that Pavel would like to share.
Hmm.
I would like to share an incident. It was Rash Purnima of 2008. I was returning from my native place in Jamshedpur to Durgapur. All of a sudden, the train took a halt at Kantadi between Barabhum and Purulia.
Hmm.
There was a swarm of these people just boarded the train with killed peacocks and deers. When they were asked about the thing, they just shrugged their shoulders and replied in a manner as if it was an incident of pride. This is a very constant truth, as I managed to see the same incident.
Yeah,
Hmm.
this is something we have seen in our experience also, where there were people carrying all kinds of wildlife, just moving between railway stations, carrying the animals openly. And anyway, and there has been an increase in number of such incidents in terms of the hunting, the scale of the hunting. It has increased exponentially over those last 6 to 8 years. That we
Okay,
have, yeah.
okay. I have a question. Like this hunting, it was banned from the Wildlife Protection Act since the
Yes.
day the act
And
was brought.
yes.
So what? Why did the authorities have a blind eye towards it that they weren't intervening?
You want to take this question, Okuda?
Uh, Before actually answering that question, this is actually much more widespread. I mean, we are now focused only on South Bengal, but the authorities have not only turned a blind eye in South Bengal, it is actually the ritualistic hunting by tribals on specific festive dates. That happens in many places in central India. We get reports and pictures from Bastar, from various parts of Chota Nagpur, Madhya Pradesh, wherever the central Indian tribes are located, and now it is, of course, spreading to non-tribal populations. As you know, in northeast, hunting is prevalent in Arunachal and definitely in Nagaland, parts of Mizoram, parts of Manipur. And those are not festive in nature. They don't hunt on specific dates. They just hunt regularly, particularly in eastern Arunachal, as a matter of fact. So in all of these areas, authorities have largely not messed with this practice. Primarily, I think primarily because wildlife protection and the forest department in this country has been primarily focused on larger, more charismatic species. Those make the headlines, and arresting a person who has killed a few birds or few small mammals, it's not. They didn't want to get into that because of various other reasons also. So there is tribal sentiment involved, and a large number of people involved in this. Instead of one guy surreptitiously poaching this, you are confronted with maybe 3 or 4 thousand people, all armed to the teeth, gathering at one place, trying to hunt. So that's a much more difficult thing to prevent than from encountering a limited number of poachers. So I think there are
one more
some
important
reasons.
thing which I believe, again, this is my perspective, so this is my thinking to this towards this subject. So see, you have to understand the scape and the history of South Bengal. Usually you do not have that kind of a biodiversity in the South Bengal regarding when it comes to flora, because you have a monoculture plantation like sal or eucalyptus. So it was usually it is in the inception back in 80s. So the plantation happened in order to create not a biodiversity hotspot, but to create an alternative source of income for the local villagers, state tribals, or everything. So that is the main aim of the JFMC, Joint Forest Management Committee. So that is why the main focus is not on wildlife rather than preservation of the monoculture forest, because of the yield of the timber. So that might be one of the reasons that the department was more focused on protecting the trees and plants rather than the biodiversity, because the like the problem we are facing in South Bengal regarding elephants. So elephants are finding the South Bengal a very congenial place to stay, because you are giving them providing them a shelter, like with salt trees, whatever forest you are creating with, but they are actually having a shelter, but there is no food, because again it's a monotypic plantation. So that is the thing. I think that might be one of the many reasons. And again, what Orkoda said, that there has been a long sentiment which is being attached to this kind of a festival. So again, if you see back before 1972, this entire tribal hunting thing is even not illegal. Um,
Yeah.
so so after 1972 or late 90s, when the promulgation of law happened, when the implementation things happened, so then only everybody take up notice of things which is happening in and around it, like deforestation, everything, killing, poaching, etc. Because before that we do not pay any heed, because there was no wildlife law 1972. there was no need of putting up a law before 1972. So like this, like you have also heard of Japan festival, which the forest department and our members successfully put a stop to this along with all the local NGOs. So it was a 400-year age long tradition. So Japan was a regular practice. It was also it's been mentioned in Lonely Planet and all. But still, it has to be stopped. So
Okay.
There's one point, Shankar, I'd like to add on.
Sure.
See, so there's one popular perception that if there is a wildlife, that belongs to the forest department, and therefore the forest is only responsible.
Correct.
Now, in my
Correct.
mind, one of the reasons why it also becomes difficult for the forest department to sort of take, to initiate actions in situations where there are like 5,000 people gathered in one place is also because they do not have enough strength in terms of their staff
Man
number.
first. Yep.
So that is why. So that is why there is a very, very important requirement of getting the district administration involved. And even today, when we speak to the SPs of some of these districts or the DMs, they would say, "No, but you can. Why don't you speak to the DFO? Because ultimately, it's wildlife. You have to speak to him. We will provide all the support and help." Now, even without the Wildlife Protection Act, there are enough provisions in the Indian Penal Code and the Code of Criminal Procedure which arms the DM as well as the police to take all possible steps to prevent any kind of wildlife crimes. Because wildlife crimes are cognizable offenses, which are serious offenses, and for preventing serious offenses, this office holders of the government are allowed have immense powers under the Indian Penal Code. So I feel that with the court orders, we should, and with lobbying by the NGOs, along with the forest department, we should make sure that the district administration is involved in dealing with hunting, which I will actually call poaching. I'm not going to call it hunting anymore. I really feel it should be called poaching.
Okay. Regarding this, we have a question. Isn't a part of the hunting also used for a mask for poaching?
Yeah, that's what we mentioned. That in some instances, when we interviewed the people on the platforms, because we saw that the monitor lizards particularly, they were not killing. They have maimed them and they were storing in one place. Even the pictures which we showed you, all of them are not dead. So they were preserving the monitor lizards. When we asked them, why don't you just skin it right now? They are saying no. If we kill it right now, then the skin loses its texture. The animal has to be live in order for the skin to remain in good condition. So, and they also indicated that the skins are sold at a price in the market. So, so this is definitely shows a link between the ritual hunting and
illegal trade,
illegal wildlife
clandestine
trade.
trade.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have officially the support of Wings. Our president has commented Wings will remain thankful to Heal to be the part of the big venture.
He'll be very happy.
He has a question: which species can be hunted and which we can't, as per the WPA?
Okay, so apart from what you can hunt under the Wildlife Protection Act is crow.
Whatever that is falling under Schedule 5,
under
I
Schedule
think.
5, whatever is that is true. But I'm just trying to recall the species. So I remember crow is there. Then I think there is squirrel and a few other species under the Schedule 5 of the Wildlife Protection Act. Only those can be hunted. Everything else, 1 to 4, are no go. You can't hunt.
And also you can mention, Meghna, that only the PCCF CWLW can issue a certain species as worming for a short period of time, which has happened with the Nilgais in Bihar and also with the Russia's macaque in
langurs also in Himachal.
Langur, sorry.
In Schedule 5, we have common crow, fruit bat, mice, and rats.
Yeah.
So they can kill as many rats as they want in the railway stations.
So they have mentioned that which rat species you can also kill. So there are some.
Yeah.
Not every rat species, to be exact.
Not every yeah.
Okay. So I would like to ask you a few of the field experiences. Like, what were the first field experiences that brought you all together to form Heal?
So this is the inception. This is it. So we are also a part of another organization called Public People United to Wait for Better Living in Cities. So it's like a mother NGO for us. So because public is preoccupied with lot of other things, lot of other litigations, and they are also into policy making things and all. So they did not have that kind of a time to spend in this kind of wildlife related issues. So that is the inception when we Meghna, Orkoda, Tiasha Addo. So we Shama Prasad Pandey, we all sat and we decided that we should do something. So the first thing that we did is to file a PIL. So that is the very first thing that we did, and then we proceeded with a lot of other things like with reptiles, with cattle, with collaborating with agencies, everything. So the inception was to do something against this kind of an hunting. I would not say ritual hunting because it has got nothing to do with ritual
Yeah.
right now. So this is it.
So
So
what
there's
my yeah, Meghna, you can say.
one. So I just adding on to that. In Heal, what we there are certain principles which we believe in, and we have been actually trying to work towards that. One is to make this conservation a part of mainstream conversation, because that is very important. People have to talk about it, like they talk about politics, or they talk about say some social issues. Wildlife or conservation doesn't really form a part of that. So one of our efforts is to reach out to various sections of society and make conservation a subject of this mainstream discussion. The second thing is that any kind of conservation initiative can work only when there is a local support, when the local communities are empowered. So one of the things which we want to do is to also create awareness among the local conservation groups, empower them, provide them knowledge so they can themselves take up conservation issues. And it is one of my personal, going forward for Heal, one of the things which I really want to do is to actually form a legal aid team who can help the regional NGOs with the nitty gritty of legal provisions and how to file cases, or how to draft complaints and file them with authorities, because that is the need of the hour. And the other thing which we believe in is that any conservation problem cannot have one single solution. It has to be dealt with from multiple angles. So even for this ritualistic hunting, taking an example, while going to the court is a very important step, you also need the involvement of the citizens in order to track, monitor hunting. You have to also work with the enforcement agencies to ensure that the order is implemented. You also need to get informers from inside the communities who will help you, who will give you information, because ultimately, if you don't have information, you can't take steps. And you also, and once people there is some resistance already which is coming in from the government, and you also then start telling them that, see, doing these activities is actually harmful to you and for your environment and for your well-being. That also puts a certain amount of pressure on them, but that happens only when there is some push from the administration. That is always we have seen that in the field. So the fourth leg, what we feel, is the awareness part of it, what we have been doing in the villages in West Midnapur and Jhargram.
Okay, so I'm going to take a question from the comment section. Taking the example of COVID-19, now can we project it to prevent hunting all over India? Guess now locals will understand more sensibly.
Yeah, I think that's something which we can do. Like Shanko was rightly mentioning in the beginning, that even though we blame China for this particular, for eating meat, for eating bush meat, or killing all wildlife which is there not only in their country but also in neighboring countries, we also are not very far behind. We are literally eating our wildlife away. So I think
Okay.
COVID-19 can also be used as a good dissidence.
So Diya Banerjee wants you to elaborate how this hunting has affected in a bigger scale of environment.
So yes, I would like to answer this. So I'm also working with. This is one of the many examples. So I'm working with the CMH of different districts in West Bengal. For that, we need to have some of the data regarding the snake bite mitigation and everything, because we are doing awareness camping for the asha workers in Bengal, some of the districts. So we saw a general trend of this increased snake bite incidents, which is happening where hunting is happening in a rampant way, because if you clear the environment out of all the pointer lizards and all, so definitely the other species, which is the the
The snake.
reptiles, the snakes, definitely they are on the rise. It's not that we are in a state to find it out even more. So we are doing some kind of research from our end, so to look at how the snake population has increased. But when you go to the villages and talk with the villagers, they will tell you the same fact that yes, the number of snakes are increased, the snake bite has increased. There is a direct link that if you take out all the monitors, which are natural predator for the snakes, all kind of snakes, so there will be an increase in one or other species of the snakes. Yes, we have got that data, because so particularly we have visited the BMHs. So BMH is like block
The block.
medical officer of health department. So we have the data for all for crucial BMHs where the tribal hunting is also taking places. So it's very evident that when you have a lot of hunting taking place in and around that particular portion, the obvious rise of snake bite incidents, the obvious there is a rise in snake bite incidents as well. So that
This
is one of the many incidents of or negative impact of this kind of a tribal hunting. And again, I'm sure that we we can elaborate on this particular subject for long.
these incidents are making the ecological balance imbalance. Okay, from Shagarda, we have a question. Can you please tell the audience why we can eat chicken and not francolins or jacanas?
This is for the audience, though it is Meghna. This meant this question
This
is for
question is
Meghna,
for
but
Megha.
but I would like to weigh in. Meghna is a vegetarian, so she doesn't like to have chicken or fish or anything. But still, you can answer, I think.
Okay, so the most simple answer is that these animals are farmed, that they are grown for human consumption. So their numbers will not decrease if you kill and eat them. While if you kill the francolins or the jacanas, their numbers will not be replenished, because they are part of the natural environment, and the natural resources are not finite. So are not infinite, sorry. So you when you remove a jacana from the environment, you remove it forever and you don't replace it. So it can lead to extinction of that species whenever you eat any wildlife, whereas farmed animals do not go extinct. So
So that is yeah. So that is why, though I'm an ardent lover of marine fish like hilsha and all,
yeah.
so now it is upon us to decide whether we would like to consume more and more like a marine fish, because once the population is depleted, there is no way to reverse that process. So that is again, that is upon us. There is no bar in apparently to hunt marine fish right now in India. Some of are protected, definitely. Some of the sharks, some of the stingrays, yes, but not all.
Okay, we have a question from Pavel. In several incidents, orchids and mangroves are being illegally trafficked as ingredients for traditional medicine and also rituals. How can they be protected? This traditional medicine and these things have also affected the wildlife quite a bit, because the
Yeah,
monitor lizard parts are also trafficked for traditional medicine.
yeah.
Can you elaborate in this traditional medicine part?
See, orchids are also protected. I'll just take on the WPA. Under the WPA, orchids are protected. So the similar provisions which apply for wild animals, the same would apply to orchids as well. Like I really have to go back and check which species. I can't get into that nitty gritty here. But I think WPA can be used to protect the species as well. Yeah,
So
you wanted to
yes, yes. There is this thing in North Bengal, or to be exact, in northern part of North Bengal, in Kashiong, in and around Neura Valley. So actually, the villages are heavily dependent upon the non-timber forest produce (NTFPs). So they are not allowed to gather any kind of orchids or anything from the national park. So for that, you need to know that there is a difference between a protected area, a reserve forest, and national park and sanctuaries. So there are some parameters. So from the protected, from the national park, even the tribal owners or the tribes are not allowed to enter and to gather anything, not even timber
Yeah.
NTFPs, not timber forest produce. Only from reserve forest you are allowed. So most of the forest in southern Bengal is a reserve forest. So from reserve forest you are allowed. So there is this provision also. So and also the WCCB, Wildlife Crime Control Bureau of India, is regularly putting a tab on who is illegally selling and procuring orchids. So they are also doing a lot of raids in all parts of India, not only in West Bengal. Obviously, you can have your bit of a traditional medicines, you can collect it, but not from the national park or from sanctuaries.
ওকে, we have a question from শুভদীপ। শিকার উৎসব হওয়ার আগে জঙ্গলে আগুন ধরানো হয় শিকারকে দেখার জন্য, এটা কি বন্ধ করা সম্ভব? কি করলে এটা বন্ধ করা যেতে পারে?
জঙ্গলে আগুন লাগানোটাও কিন্তু ওয়াইল্ড লাইফ প্রোটেকশন অ্যাক্টের আন্ডারে ক্রিমিনাল অফেন্স। তো ওখানেও একই পানিশমেন্ট আছে। যদি ঠিকমতো লটা এনফোর্স করা যায় তাহলে জঙ্গলে আগুন বন্ধ করা যেতে পারে। এবার ইস্যুটা হচ্ছে অগেন যেটা মনিটরিং এর প্রবলেম বা প্যাট্রোলিং এর প্রবলেমটা আমাদের ডিল করতে হবে।
আমি শুধু জিজ্ঞেস করতে চাই যদি শুভদীপ একটু বলতে পারে কোন জায়গার কোন জঙ্গলের কথা বলছে, কারণ সুবিধা হয়। যাই হোক,
Okay.
তবুও মানে দিস ইনিশিয়েটিভ হ্যাজ টু বি টেকেন আপ বাই ইন্ডিভিজুয়ালস অর লোকাল এনজিওস অ্যালং উইথ দি ইন ট্যান্ডেম উইথ দি ফরেস্ট ডিপার্টমেন্ট। কারণ একটা কথা আমাদের মনে রাখতে হবে যে ফরেস্ট ডিপার্টমেন্ট ইজ ওয়ার্কিং রাইট নাও উইথ 40% স্ট্রেংথ, অ্যান্ড
ফরেস্ট
ফরেস্ট
ডিপার্টমেন্ট
ডিপার্টমেন্ট ওয়ার্কস
ফরেস্ট
ইন
ডিপার্টমেন্ট
সাইলোস। হ্যাঁ, মানে ওদের কিন্তু অন্য অন্য ডিপার্টমেন্ট দে ডাজন্ট প্রোভাইড দ্যাট মাচ হেল্প টু দি ফরেস্ট
Support.
ডিপার্টমেন্ট, সো দে আর অল অ্যালোন বাই দেমসেলস। এগেন মেঘনা।
আর একটা জিনিস হচ্ছে যে অ্যাটলিস্ট কিছু কিছু এরিয়াতে যেরকম বাঁকুড়া, ওয়েস্ট মেদিনীপুরেও there are mikings and announcements being made by the forest officials saying that জঙ্গলে আগুন লাগাবেন না। শিকারের জন্য কিছুটা বলছে, অতটা নয়, অতটা এমফাসিস নয় শিকারে, কিন্তু প্রাইমারিলি জঙ্গলে আগুন না লাগানোর ব্যাপারটা কিন্তু ওরা মাইকিং এ লোকজনকে বলছে। এবং তা সত্ত্বেও যদি হয়, আমার মনে হয় এটা ফরেস্ট ডিপার্টমেন্টকে এবং থানাতেও জানানো প্রয়োজন। যদি আমরা কেউ দেখি এরকম ইনসিডেন্ট হচ্ছে, আমরা কিন্তু এনফোর্সমেন্ট এজেন্সিকে আমরা নিশ্চয়ই জানাবো।
Okay. Now someone has asked, Rakesh Singhodev, the role of social media and mass media on these hunting issues.
Social media really has a very important role to play because you can use the media as a positive tool to spread the message of the ill effects of ritualistic hunting and also to remove people's misconceptions regarding ritual hunting. Some of when we started off in 2016-17, we found that the media itself was not, so many people, I'm not like naming names, maybe people are not were not used to dealing with a subject like ritualistic hunting, but in some of the news reports they would really show the hunters in a very sympathetic light, that see, they have been hunting regularly for so many years, and now the forest department and these NGOs are coming forward and stopping them. Nowhere would they mention that this is actually a serious criminal offense which has been criminalized since 1972, and there is no exemption provided for this. And through media workshops and through our interactions with our journalists acquaintances, we have been able to somewhat communicate it to them that this is something which cannot be accepted in today's world, and this is also a criminal offense. And so far as the journalism is concerned, it is extremely important. And second, even through the social media, when we say we share a picture, right? A picture is very, very, very strong, and it automatically garners a lot of support. People really get to see the grotesqueness of the hunting, like what I showed you from YouTube, right? It's up on YouTube. So I can just share it with anyone if I want to really give him or her a sense of the killing which happens. So I think social media and print media both play a very, very important role, and we have to keep on educating the journalists as well as people through these two media.
Okay, Didi, I had talked with few tribals way back. They used to hunt. So when I had a discussion with them, they said they don't hunt the same species every year, and they only hunt in a particular day for a particular species because that's what actual hunting is. It's sustainable hunting according to them.
Where are
So, what's your view about this?
where did you come across this?
This I came across this in one area near Jharkhand border. They call themselves Sautals, and they said that they hunt for small birds, but for a year, in a year they hunt for a single species, and for the next year they let that species breed and increase in numbers so that they can hunt it the year after.
So that might also sustain the forest uh, per se. They have a scientific approach towards hunting, but again,
That is, see, in
These things are
practice, if
also
you
banned.
see, yeah, this is
yeah,
also banned.
and
See,
also banned,
under the
definitely.
law, there is absolutely, see, under the law, under the Wildlife Protection Act, two things one has to take as the gospel truth. First is there is no exemption for
Hunting.
any of traditional hunting apart from the exemption given to tribes of Andaman Nicobar Islands, which is specifically provided under the Wildlife Protection Act. Secondly, in order to strengthen the Wildlife Protection Act, the Forest Rights Act specifically says that any right of the forest dwelling communities on the forest will not include the right to hunt any
Hunt.
wild animal. So these two laws make it very clear that not a single specimen of wildlife can be hunted. Yeah.
Okay. So, for the normal people, for our audience, who
Mm.
might sometimes see someone hunting something, what
Mm.
should they do when they come across someone who has hunted already or is on the process to hunt?
Okay,
What
so
should
now
be their course of action?
see, there are many ways to look at it, and it depends on the situation completely. If you come across, say, a 500 people hunting, and maybe they've hunted a lot of animals, but if you are like in a group of one or two or three people, there is not much you can do about it, right? So the best course of action at that point of time is to take photos, collect the information, and then report to the enforcement agencies, report to the forest department immediately. That is the first thing they should do. In fact, if anyone wants any help with the contacts also in South Bengal, we can help with the departmental contacts. Secondly, if you see that there are one or two people, there are not too many people, and maybe you are in a position to sort of tell that person, then go up and speak. That actually acts as a shaming technique also. The moment you go and stop somebody, it automatically has a deterrent effect, whether it's ritual in the name of rituals or for any other purpose. And that is the reason in the railway platforms also, when the railways start announcing that hunting is illegal, they feel scared, because then the people also look. Normal people don't know whether this is a offense or not. Normal daily passengers, they don't know. But the moment they hear this, they also start looking at it from a fresh perspective. And incidentally, we got a lot of help in the railway platforms in Howrah after this messages started being played by the railways. So when we would go there and we would ask people, so did you see this person? Did you see any wild animal? Did you see a hunter? Immediately they will point us that, oh, we saw this hunter. We told him not to do this, and he left, and he didn't listen to us. So I think we should always make an attempt to try and stop. Having said that, always document, always take photos of the hunter or the animal which he has hunted, and immediately inform the authorities. Even if the incident has happened, that is also fine. Today, with the help of various technologies, we can actually trace a person. We are tracing Facebook profiles and reaching the culprits. So take a photo, take the location, and inform the authorities always.
Okay. Pavel has said that I have heard of incidents of orchids being trafficked out of the fringes of Neoda Valley National Park.
Shubhra, you want to take this? You're mentioning
Yes,
about the
it's quite rampant and quite regular, and so the entire Nehru Valley is falling under protected forest and national parks. So you are not supposed to take out anything. So not only wild orchids, yes, you are correct, you are right. So the WCCB is also keeping a tab on that also, and not only orchids, insects are also being trafficked heavily. When I say insects, some butterflies, moths, etc. Everything. Correct, you are correct. But you see, that is not our forte. We are not with the enforcement agencies. So what we can do, or what you can do, if you have any kind of informations, you can pass it on to us, or directly to the nearest to the Wildlife Crime Control Bureau or the West Bengal Forest Department. If you find any hindrance, if you cannot ring the right authority, you can always ask us, so we can also direct you if you find any kind of a problem.
Okay, we have two questions regarding forest fire. One is the continuation of Shubhodip's question. He is saying that কিছুদিন আগে গড়জঙ্গল দুর্গাপুর এবং বাঁকুড়া শুশুনিয়া পাহাড়ে আগুন লাগানো হয়েছিল. All the major hills in this Purulia Bankura region were on fire during the first week of April.
Yeah.
And the next question is from Diptesh Goswami. Is controlled fire possible in dry deciduous forests of Malbhumi? I don't know why he wants a fire in the forest. If you can, please elaborate and take the question.
Yes, forest department does some kind of a controlled so what is the yes, yeah. So
Controls
forest department, so forest department does this kind of a controlled fire in the forest patches, in order to create a vacuum between two patch of dry forest. So it's so that they can put a blockage to a proceeding fire, and uh, in order to create an impediment, like if there is an accidental fire, so that it won't disrupt the entire forest, only a patch of forest. That is why they create a fire line. So that is very important when it comes to forest management and all. Again, those litters, so those dry deciduous forests can harbor a lot of biodiversity, and I think that's a case of collateral damages, because in this process we lose a lot of reptiles like frogs, snakes, etc. And if the forest department does this kind of an activity during the breeding seasons of birds, so then it becomes much more pathetic
Yeah.
for the chicks and everything.
Okay, we'll go to another question. It's from Diptesh. I want to focus in one particular point. What we can do with enormous road killing? It's a major threat towards several species like golden jackal, Bengal fox, snakes, wild boars, etc. What can we
Yes,
do? Just an off-topic question.
yes, yes. This is a very important, though it is not pertaining to our topic today. But we are also associated with similar kind of activities in North Bengal, in a patch you have all already known, Lataguri. So we are working with one of our sister organization, their Spore. I think you may have heard of Spore in North Bengal. They are working with elephant mitigation, wildlife mitigation, and all. So from 2012, along with Spore and their members, in fact, we are also members of Spore. Meghna is the president of Spore. So we are trying to mitigate this roadkill thing. So Deeptesh, what you can do, you gather as much possible the GPS locations and make a GPS map out of this roadkill thing. So you can also see the hotspot where the roadkill is happening in greater number or in a lesser number. So that way you can also you can also approach the authority, or you can also approach us. So we can also question the authority that, look, this patch like around 3-4 kilometers, 5-6 kilometers is very vulnerable for the species, and they are getting roadkill, so that we can put some kind of impediments in the form of what you say, bumps, uh, speed breakers, and also some flashing things in which will also enable us to look in the night. So we can put this kind of things. We
Radio.
actually did that in Howrah, where Tiasha Addo is working with fishing catch. So where she find lot of roadkill
Reflectors.
activity. Sorry.
They call that reflectors. She used.
Reflectors, so she put some of the reflectors so that the vehicles which ply on the road, they knew that there is some species which can be found in this area, and so they reduce their speed. So this has happened in Howrah. Also, we are documenting. When I say we, means sport is documenting the road still species in North Bengal across the 11-kilometer stretch in Gorumara. And we have also presented that the secretary also presented the information to the CCF there. So they have also taken up the initiative. So the department will shortly put up some of the restrictions there also, regarding they will put some CCTV cameras to regulate the speed. They have already put signboards that you should not be speeding over 40 kilometers, 60 kilometers. So there will be some kind of things which will be happening. And most importantly, if you can, Diptesh, or any of you can come up with similar kind of hotspot areas where you think that killing is happening on a regular basis, we can inform the authority to create an underpass. So in other parts of India, like in Pench, also in Bandipur, they have come up with underpass proposals. Again, this is a tiger reserve, so tiger usually dwells there. So and tiger is also getting roadkill. But our patches are no less important. So we can also approach the authority along with all the data. See, the authority is not going to believe us, otherwise you have photo documentation and all
Yeah.
the data in a scientific format. So you come up with that, you approach the authority. So we can also put up a notion to create an underpass. Overbridge will be difficult because it's a very costly thing, and like so we can definitely do that. Yeah.
Okay. We have another question from Pavel. Is Jatinga incident a form of ritualistic hunting?
Yes, definitely. It's a
Yeah.
form of ritualistic hunting.
Okay. I have another question. If you would like to elaborate or share with us the most horrible experience regarding the ritualistic hunting,
So
each
this
one
is
of
There are
you.
your
too,
question.
there
This
are
is
too
your.
many of them.
No, you have to choose one. The most horrible, like the one
I
that made you shake.
In 2016, definitely.
not also all 2016, but if you think about, like, I really have to describe this. So this was
Okay.
in 2017. So what you can describe the 16. I will talk about the 17. So
Okay.
same
So,
location, same
okay.
location. Yeah,
Hmm.
you want saying same location.
Sorry,
This
2017, not in 2016. Correct.
16 was really, really sad, and
2017.
we felt really bad about everything. And we saw this was the first time we were seeing the hunted wildlife, the scale of the hunting. We couldn't do anything. We just took some photos and went back. So obviously, it was really horrific with all those thousands of animals just strewn across the railway platforms. But the next year, in 2017, it was both. It was not only in terms of the number of animals which we saw dead, it was also in terms of our personal safety, and the kind of risk we had to take to actually take photos. So we have a team. We had that time we had a team of about 10 people who had gone for 10 or 12 people. Correct me if I'm wrong. We had gone to
13, 14.
yeah, 13, 14 people. We had taken our cars and we had gone to East Medipur and Howrah. So we were moving from one spot to another. So what we were doing, we had so that time we didn't have the court order as that year. So we had informed the forest department, and in some places the forest department was cooperative. Like in Howrah, they were very cooperative, and they were trying their best to minimize. The DFO herself went and tried to speak to the hunter communities, but obviously that the situation was completely out of control. Now, in every station, uh, there were like ropes tied across, and monitor lizards were hung from that. So that is the kind of spectacle we saw. Then some of us had gone to this station called Khirai. in East Mednipur. Now, Khirai has a very, very peculiar landscape. So you had to approach the station by a narrow road. You cannot take a
You
turning.
reverse your car.
You
You
cannot.
cannot
You can
turn.
reverse. That is the only thing. You can reverse it.
Hmm.
So there is for a 5 kilometer stretch. You break away from the main road. There is a narrow earthen road with fields on both sides, fields and scrub forest on both sides, and then that's how you reach the Khirai station. So it's a dead end. Okay, you cannot turn the car for 5 kilometers. You have to reverse it. So we reached the spot. The cars were parked there, and we came across the mob. There were like mob of 15, at least in that particular section there were 15 to 2000 people. The railway platforms had even more numbers. So we informed the forest authorities, and we had also informed the DM and the SP. So we thought that we have some support from them. Then and we did, and what we saw there were that basically we were killing monitor lizards. They were skinning them. Some of them were being cooked alive. They were the picture of the soft shell turtle which I shared in my presentation, that was in fact taken from there. So, and we saw like bagfuls of monitor lizards. So we really thought that we should do something to rescue these animals, as many as we can. Uh, okay, so that and we thought that anyway the authorities are coming, maybe they would be a little scared. So our car is parked there with no way to reverse. There were two cars, and we are in front of the mob. We went to a side spot, and we were telling the people that don't hunt, and this is completely illegal. You please leave these things and go back to your place. Don't be here. Okay, so now the I think this was a forest car, or I don't or the police car.
Police
So
car.
it
Police car.
police car. It came. It saw us, saw our car and the mob, and it just went away from there. And
It
after that,
reversed.
they just left. And
In
then
reverse. In reverse.
whatever, in reverse, they just went. They just saw it and then just went away. So then we realized that nothing's really going to happen, and we are alone. And there are like we were about 10 people, because some of them have gone to Howrah to cover that spot. So we were just 10 of us in front of about, I don't know, 2000 people, and they started calling more people just to make an example of us, that these people have come and look at what they're trying to do. They are, and most of them are intoxicated. Some of them were brandishing their axes and their bows and arrows at us. People hit Shubro. Tiasha and myself were there, so we were also hit, pushed. The ladies were there, the screaming at the tops of their voices, the tribal women. And then we had basically intercepted weapons from hunters who we had found in other spots, and they were in the back of the car. Some of them just came towards us and they said that you just take out these weapons right now, otherwise we'll burn your car. And they started and that was Shubro had just bought a new car that time, like not even 3 months old. It was a red Brisa, I still remember. And he was telling me that I think I'll get the insurance money, if it is burnt. So at that point, and Orkoda's wife's car, the second car was Orkoda's wife's car, who is also a member of our organization. It was parked a little behind, and he was constantly saying, "Now what will I do if this car gets burned? I'll be thrown out of the house." So this was the situation. And finally, and
So I was
and they,
okay that they are just pushing me, just kicking me in every possible way. So I was okay with that. But what should I say when I go back to Calcutta without any car? And it's not even there wasn't a bit any scratch before that. So I was calculating. So if it gets burned, so what is the kind of reimbursement that I'm going to get? So because they are trying to shake the car from every direction,
yeah,
they are just knocking the car with their axes. Luckily, any of my screens didn't break.
Didn't break.
Huh, sorry. Huh. So adding to that, we had a reporter with us. So he was carrying a very costly camera, and he was just sitting inside the car and just shaking badly and screaming that Shubro, what will happen? What should I do? And so I thought that the best way is to sacrifice yourself, uh, mar khao, so that their grievance doesn't fall on the car. So this is the incident.
বুকের পাটা চাই, খুব মোটা পাটা, বুলেট প্রুফ পাটা।
তখন তো আমার পাটা
তখন
আমার গাড়ি দেখছে না।
তখন গাড়ি এবার এবার আমরা তখন এবার তারপরে পুলিশ এসে they started blaming us that so you are holding up this crowd, what are you doing, why are you here? The police, instead of telling them anything, they started questioning us, and it's not that we had actually gone and done anything, we were telling them not to hunt. So then we realized, in fact তারপরে ইনসিডেন্টটার পরে we realized that
that
nothing
no,
will work unless there's a court order, because people are not going to listen to us or take us seriously. Only when the court orders, everything changed with the court order. So
so they
that
told
was the
directly
most,
the police also, no, at the same time
yeah,
with the forest. So there was a direction on the police, the SP to be exact. So then only the police came to our aid. Otherwise,
yeah,
we are not getting any kind of help apart from the forest department. And so forest department, they have a staff of only 20-30 in that district for the entire
yeah,
district. So it is not
Okay.
possible for our members and
yeah.
20-30 odd foresters to put an end to this huge
So,
gathering.
so while this incident was actually one of the really worst ones, we have had really bad ones, like the day when the tiger was killed. We were surrounded, were threatened by people. So this keeps on happening. I mean, I think from 2016 onwards, whenever we have gone on the field, there has always been, we have actually risked a lot. Our members, in fact, there are so many I can't even name. Like there's Jubilee, Aurobindo, Orko Prabhu, so many of them. They have risked their lives to collect the documentation that we have today, which actually helped us to get the court orders, because that really moved the judges.
Okay. One more thing. Last year, most probably, I saw a order from the forest department mentioning a lot of hunting dates
Yeah,
and asking the forests to
Mm.
team up with the volunteer groups.
yeah,
Was that an initiative from your side?
yes. That was in fact the list of hunting dates was a part of the annexure which we had filed with the High Court. So they had
Okay.
just taken that annexure and they had issued a notification, and in fact we had spoken to the then head of forest sports, Mr. Pandey, saying that our teams will be coordinating. We will be present across all the railway stations. There are about 80 volunteers who were there, right from I think Howrah Uluberia to
From all the
station,
NGOs.
from all NGOs. So there were people from Nature Mates, there were people from local NGOs, wildlife ecology, etc. So all of them were there, and we were coordinating with each other. So whenever we saw any hunting movement, people embarking on the platform, we would immediately speak to the authorities, and we would make sure that either they are sent back, or if they had hunted any wildlife, then that is confiscated. Their weapons are confiscated and they are arrested. And in fact, I think in the history of ritual hunting in Khirai, seven
In
people were arrested last year. Khirai is a place again from where we had been, like the incident which I was narrating, where we were threatened that our car would be burned. This
in
same station,
2017.
this was in 2017, and in 2019, that entire platform was empty. I mean, I think we have some pictures on Facebook. I forgot to put it in the presentation. It just shows the difference. So there are some locals telling us that, why did you come? You have stopped, you have completely stopped the festival. And there were people who were running this haria shops because they had lost out, right? So there were so many tribals or the hunters would come and would purchase haria from them. Haria, for those who don't know, is local brew.
True.
So locally made alcohol. So they were actually they put up a mic and they started saying that the government has stopped us. They are not allowing the hunters to embark on the railway platforms. So the RPF had taken a very good, RPF, the Railway Protection Force, along with the General Railway Police, they had adopted a very good tactic. And we were also at every step, our volunteers were there to help them identify and disarm the hunters. So whenever they saw that hunters were not when hunters were carrying weapons and they were embarking on the platform, they would be stopped. And in some parts, there were other local NGOs, as I said, wildlife ecology, and there are some NGOs in West Medinipur also who played a very critical role in stopping the hunting.
Okay. So thank you guys for this lovely presentation and enlightening all our audience. Before we end, we have a last question that I will take from Shaikat. Several ornate flying snakes are caught and they are used by small children to claim money from people inside local trains. How can we stop them? This incident are usually happening in Bardwan Howrah local trains.
Shubhu, you can take this question.
Yes. So So, in my experiences, so when I have tried to stop this kind of an activity from women, especially from women, so they usually garner local help from the passengers, from the co-passengers, because the co-passenger at that time will turn hostile. So the best way is to tag along them, find out their holdouts, and then inform the forest department. So that is the best way you can handle this kind of a thing, because if you encounter them in a busy shop, in a busy thoroughfare, railway stations, platforms, they will garner a lot of sympathies, because at that time it is not possible for the forest department to come in a blink of an eye. So, and also the RPF is not going to help you out, because then you have to initiate a lot of conversation with the RPF, and in the meantime they will flee. The best way is to dedicate the entire day following them, and you have to put a tag on them. That's it. If you, because they usually originated from a single village or from a single locality, right? uh, in our South Bengal, there is this place in Baruipur area, Golpupur. So it was used that Golpupur area happen to be one of the hub for this kind of activities, where you will find more than 100 to 200 of vines and another 200 of ornate flying snakes. So this kind of originating point is very important. If you can have any kind of information, for that you have to get your own intel there. Again, you have to be either you can do that by your own, or you can sought the help of the forest department. But I think it's best that if you can take the initiative.
Okay, so we will be ending today's session here. Thank
Okay.
you for this lovely time. It has been 1 hour 45 minutes plus. You have been with us, and the last question is: what is the current scenario? Like, how many animals and huntings are right now being done, according to your last statistics,
So,
and how the situation has improved?
so you are talking about West Bengal or
West
West
Bengal,
Bengal.
right? What we
The,
have ritual hunting.
after your initiatives of the court orders and stuff, what is the present scenario and how has it improved?
See, for as I was mentioning, this Falharani Kali Pujo festival that has been contained to a large extent. I would say from 2016 to 2019, there has been a drop of about 95% in hunting because of the
Great.
various measures taken by the forest department, the DM, SP, railways, and the and HEAL, and along with the other NGOs. So it shows when citizens and the government work together, wonders can really happen. This year we are yet to see. Also because of the lockdown, some of the hunts have not happened in full swing, and Falharni Kali Pujo is coming up. So we'll see. If the railways are not plying, or if they start plying, how to manage that. Hopefully, this year also we'll be able to deal with it. So far as the other huntings are concerned, now, so okay, so we got the order. In fact, last year in end April. Before that, the Pakibad festival had happened, and there had not been any drop in numbers. So last year we did not really get a chance to see on the field the impact of the court order. Since then, we have also embarked upon a survey to get information about the dates of hunts, because as of now we knew that hunting is happening from information here and there, but we are trying to create a detailed hunting map of South Bengal, where all the locations, the GPS coordinates will be provided, and we will be in a position to provide that to the authorities as well as to our members and volunteers to monitor the situation. Now, during our surveys, we have found a large number of new hunt dates where hunting are happening. They have been intimated to the authorities. In some cases, because of the lockdown again this year, while there have been instances of hunting, in other cases there have been nothing. Say, for instance, in Pakibad this year, there was nothing much. The forest department has done its patrolling, but the real test of dealing with like 10,000 people at one go, that we have not yet seen this year, because the lockdown started from March, which is actually from where the hunt season starts. So because of the other restrictions on movement and all, the numbers have not been too large. So we have seen that some cases crowds have been dispersed, forest has gone in. So the challenge will be really in the coming months or in the next year, when you'd have to deploy forces to stop the hunters from gathering. So we are keeping our fingers crossed.
Okay.
But definitely because of the court orders, we have been able to create dialogue, and we are in discussion with the SP and the DMs of various districts. See, forest is always, they always want to stop this. So, but sometimes they need a bit of outside help, and they also it's really good that they can now take help from the DM and the SP as well.
Okay. Thank you so much, Meghnadi, Shubhroda, and Orkoda. Though Orkoda is not present with us right now. Thank you so much for this lovely time. Thank you. And I will request you to stay back, and I'm going to end the live session.
Okay.
Bye bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye.